Hey guys, this is Phil Stoops Physio, and I help Hyrox and endurance athletes break the injury cycle and start winning without pain. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the number one reason why a lot of people are still in pain. It really comes down to people not understanding their history and the impact on the body that previous injuries or stressors can actually have, and the lasting legacy or impact that actually has on the body, and how you form motor adaptations to these changes that occur in your body. So, a really simple example is a sprained ankle. There's a lot of inflammation, there's a lot of pain at the time of the sprain, and your body finds a way of still going to work in the following days. So you have to find these motor adaptations and these strategies that don't cause more pain or more inflammation. So as a result, in this example, maybe your peroneal muscles, which were really injured at the time of the sprain, have shut down. You're not using them because your body's quite clever. It knows that that equals danger, that equals pain. So it just turns down the volume. However, you carry on doing your activity, which maybe is just walking to the shop or doing the housework, the cleaning, or making it to work. And your body still finds a way. Super clever. However, whenever it's all healed, your body doesn't have the best strategy in the world for turning the volume back up on things and for getting those peroneal muscles switched back on, unless you have done a really thorough rehab, which a lot of us have sprained an ankle and haven't really rehabbed it and have gone back to sport. And then we start to feel maybe calf tension, or we start to have a niggly knee, or we have some hip pain. And that's an example of how it can be related to something that happened in the past. And I'm not saying that all injuries are like that. You can get unlucky, you can twist your knee, you can damage your meniscus in your knee or your cruciate ligament or your MCL through bad luck or through twist or through impact or something like that. But generally, we're talking about injuries that have come on really progressively over time and that have no real explanation for them. There's no mechanism of injury. And suddenly you're left with this niggling pain that you're managing with therapy. Maybe you're stretching, maybe you're using a massage ball, maybe you're using a foam roller, and it feels like you just have to spend 20, 30, 40 minutes warming up or stretching or doing what you have to do in order to get through a workout. And I'm here to tell you that that's not how it should be. Yes, your body needs a little bit of movement and warm up before you get thrown into your either your running training or your CrossFit training. But really, it should take 2 or 3 primers to get things going, and then you're into your workout. So a good place to start is to dig into your injury history. So if you can think all the way back, and a question that I always like to ask clients is, when did this cascade of injury, when did this all go wrong? Can you bring yourself back to that time where actually you were pain free, you were moving smoothly, you were at your peak? What happened around that time that then started this continuous cycle of injuries and pain? And there's often something to take from that. And it could be physical, it could be emotional. There's a lot of emotional stressors at play in day to day life as well. And sometimes that can be underestimated, just how much of an impact an emotional stress can have. And that's why in treatment and with my clients, I'm always digging into those emotional and psychological factors that can influence your pain, that can increase your pain, can change your respiratory system, and actually change how your body moves as well. But that's for a whole other video and a whole other day. But what you can do right now is go into your injury history. Did you have previous fractures? Have you had those sprained ankles? Have you twisted your knees? Do a bit of a body scan. Have you sprained your toes? Have you sprained wrists or broken fingers? Have you had tennis elbow? Have you a strained your rotator cuff in the gym? Have you broken ribs? Have you been in a car accident? This is something that a lot of people gloss over whenever we're doing history taking in the clinic. I always ask that question, have you ever been in a car accident? And a lot of people have, and they don't consider that a previous injury, whereas they probably got some level of whiplash and some stiffness around the neck. And as I mentioned before, some motor adaptations and ways to move around this new stiffness that's been created. And they've never really returned to that full function or full form because they've never really had their eye on it. So that's a good place to start, is dig into your injury history, see where this all started. And I call it the root cause reset. And after the root cause reset, you might not have it nailed down, but you have a working hypothesis. You have maybe 3 or 4 things that you're like, oh, that could maybe impact what's going on. For example, the sprained ankle could have a knock-on effect as to why you have more lower back tension. It might not, it might be completely irrelevant, but it's something that I would want to test. It's something that I'd be interested in. I would like to go in and test that ankle and see if you can actually push using those peroneal muscles that I mentioned that got injured before. So you're going to work out if those peroneal muscles can actually get your force from your lower limb into the floor. And if they can, it's a good reason why you'd gather more tension from your lower back to try and get your force into the floor. Again, you might have 3 or 4 things that you're looking at, and that's what you could test. If you've previously hurt your knee, does your knee have full range of motion? Can you do a single leg bridge, for example? Can you squat down onto your hunkers? Can you do a lunge? All of those things. Have you torn your hip flexor, for example? And you could test that potentially by doing a quad stretch or getting down into a plank position. Can you do a single leg plank? If that hip flexor wasn't able to take the amount of force going through in a single leg plank, then it's highly likely that when you get up to sprinting level forces, you're going to have to find another strategy in order to create that force. And that's where you find that buildup of tension in other parts of your body, for example, your lower back. Now, this will open a whole can of worms, but if you can write it down in a timeline and literally from the very first injury that you can remember to present day, and you have that clear timeline, this can be the key to success in order to get back to your dream outcome, which is thoughtless, fearless movement and competing pain-free. But what you need to do is potentially look at the potential skills that you may have lost or the motor adaptations that you may have gained from this history. And then you start to create some milestones that actually plug that back in, or you relearn that skill. And through graded exposure, you get up to those higher levels in rehab again. And there's an art to this. There's an art to deconstructing a skill. For example, a strongman lifting an Atlas stone and breaking that down into what each section of the body has to do in order to carry out that task. So back to the sprained ankle example, you need to use your peroneal muscles and you need to squash your feet into the floor if you're going to have any chance of using your lower limb in lifting that heavy boulder. You can work your way up the body and see what skills are needed at each level of the body. What potentially is your body missing? And what I would do with the client then is, if we have discovered that foot intent is potentially the problem, that would become the staple of the rehab. We're going to work on foot intent. Potentially that's just pressing your foot into the floor. It's maybe setting up with half your foot on the towel. Maybe it's shifting your weight over the top of the foot. Maybe it's working into hinges, slouches, or squats, depending on the level. And I pick the level by what can you tolerate without symptoms. I'm not a no pain, no gain kind of physio. I'm searching for pain-free. I'm searching for where your nervous system feels safe and able to express the load or form the skill which we're trying to plug back into the body. And then through tens or hundreds or thousands of reps, you can start to regain that skill that your body was missing because of your injury history and move towards performing the full act of lifting that heavy stone or whatever it is for you, whether it's your running, cycling, high activity, ergs, whatever that is for you. It's about graded exposure and getting back up to those high levels. So my advice to you right now is to map out your injury history and be very clear on the dream outcome that you want to achieve, and to reach out to a physio that has a good coach's eye that can see what your body's missing and what can be plugged back in order for you to achieve that dream outcome and start winning. If I'm the coach for you, then you can reach out to me, you can DM me, we can do a free call where we're going to go deep on that injury history, and I'm going to tell you how I would coach you to pain-free success. Thanks for watching. I'm going to keep doing these videos, so like and subscribe to the video. Hopefully I'm going to give you lots of good insights into how I treat patients and how I built out this Resilient Athlete program. This channel is also going to have a little bit bonus content and what I'm doing here in Sri Lanka and my journey, my own healing journey, which I'm excited to share with you. Thanks for watching.